Hey everyone, this is your stimulus update for Monday, August 3rd. This stimulus update is for those of you wondering about the second stimulus check, for those of you that still haven't received your first stimulus check, as well as the latest details on the negotiations for the next stimulus package. We're getting down to crunch time as the House and the Senate need to come to a deal this week to meet that August 7th deadline before they go on recess. So the House and the Senate both are in agreement to send out a $1,200 stimulus check to individuals. That is one thing that they actually agree on. However, there are still many major differences that they're still trying to negotiate and work out before they can pass the next stimulus package. Yesterday, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows met with Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in hopes that they could come to a closer deal on the next stimulus package. They have been meeting all weekend long and trying to come to a deal. Mnuchin told reporters on Sunday, "We obviously need bipartisan support to get any deal done. The last two deals we got done 96-0 and 100-0. I think it's pretty fair to say that we're not going to do that again." So, while this next deal probably isn't going to receive the full support of both the House and the Senate, they are working to negotiate a deal that would be just enough to get passed in both of the House and the Senate and be signed by this week. According to reports, both sides said that the meeting was productive yesterday and that they would continue talks today on Monday, but they are still far apart on many of the issues. The payout amount for extending unemployment benefits is one of the major sticking points that's still being discussed. Regarding the unemployment insurance extension, Nancy Pelosi said, "The amount of money that is given as an enhancement for unemployment insurance should relate to the rate of unemployment, so as that goes down, you could consider something less than $600. But in this agreement, it's $600. So she's saying that basically for this next agreement, it needs to be $600. But it does sound like she could have some potential wiggle room for future amounts. The House does want to extend the $600 per week unemployment benefit that expired July 31st. And based on Nancy Pelosi's comments, they really want to stay with that $600 amount. Although for once, it sounds like she may be open to a little bit more wiggle room on the amount going a little bit lower than $600. The Senate wants to reduce that $600 amount to avoid paying people to stay at home and make more money than they would at their regular jobs. And the Senate has suggested that they pay 70% of a worker's previous income on their job. This has proved to be problematic as a proposal because some states have said that it would be hard for them to calculate that 70% employment or the 70% payments based on previous employment, and that their antiquated computer systems really would have trouble trying to figure this out. It sounds like they do just need to agree on a fixed amount somewhere between $0 and $600. And it sounds like the House is willing to negotiate a little bit, and the Senate is also willing to negotiate a little bit on their amount, but they have to come to an agreement on the total amount that would be paid out per week. If that unemployment insurance is renewed and they can come to an agreement that it would be retroactive back to July 31st, which is great news. However, the question is, will this deal get done this week so that that will actually start coming as soon as possible and it doesn't come before it's too late? President Trump and the Senate offered to extend the $600 per week unemployment benefit for one more week, but Nancy Pelosi and the House shot that down and said either we're getting a complete deal or we're not going to do a deal at all. In an interview with CNBC, Pelosi said, "What are we going to do? Come back to the table and do this in 2 to 3 months again?" She's implying basically that they want to get a deal done now that's going to last for the next 6 months or so and take care of people for that long. And she doesn't want a short-term fix to this. CNN reports that Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said after Saturday's meeting, there's clearly a subset of issues where we both agree on, listing an extension of unemployment insurance, schools, the Paycheck Protection Program, and jobs. So they are agreeing on quite a few things. It's just that amount on the unemployment insurance that's one of the major sticking points. For the $1,200 second stimulus checks, the only difference between the House plan, which is the HEROES Act, and the Senate plan, the HEALS Act, is the amount that's given out to dependents. Both the HEALS Act and the HEROES Act included provisions for dependents to receive funding this time, unlike the CARES Act, where dependents were left off completely if they were over the age of 17. In this next proposal, the HEALS Act included $500 for those claimed as dependents, and the HEROES Act included $1,200 for those claimed as dependents. That's another one of those issues that they need to find some middle ground between the $1,200 and the $500, but it sounds like that's not a huge issue with regards to the negotiation of this next stimulus plan, which is great news for those that were claimed as dependents. And I know a lot of you watch my videos, so you will be getting at least $500 if they can come to a deal. Senate Majority Leader is hoping that they can reach an agreement within the next few weeks. And he said that recently. That wasn't like a few weeks ago where he said that he was hoping to reach an agreement in the next few weeks. He seems like he is willing to delay that August recess, just as Nancy Pelosi suggested the House of Representatives would also be open to delaying their recess to make sure that a stimulus bill gets done. That's kind of good news and bad news to me. I think they really need this deadline of August 7th to get something done. Like I've been saying in my previous videos, they need that deadline like they're cramming for a test. Basically, I think they both know that they need to get a deal done as soon as possible, but neither of them really want to make concessions on that unemployment amount. So Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was optimistic yesterday that even though there are divisions on some issues, he does think that they are going to reach an agreement on the next stimulus bill. Schumer, he expressed his optimism on Sunday, saying that while significant divisions remain, good progress was made in discussions with the White House. And that's the meeting that I was talking about earlier with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, Nancy Pelosi, White House advisor Mark Meadows, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. That was the meeting they all met in yesterday. Chuck Schumer said to reporters yesterday, "We made good progress. There are lots of things we're still divided on, and we're not close to an agreement yet, but we are making progress, and I'm hopeful that we can come to an agreement." And I'm hopeful as well, and I think they will. Giving funding to schools remains a sticking point on the next stimulus package. And it's not basically that they want to give funding to schools or not. The funding to schools for the Senate's plan is tied to reopening, and they want to only give funding to schools if they're reopening. Otherwise, they want to give the funding directly to individuals and parents who have children that are in areas where the schools aren't reopening. But for schools that are reopening, the Senate plan would give them directly to the schools. The House plan does not want to tie anything back to reopening of schools. They just want to give funding to schools whether they're reopening or not. I'm not actually sure why a school would need funding if they're not going to reopen, if they're going to remain closed. I don't know. There's maybe doing online classes or something like that. But the Senate wants to tie funds to reopening while the House doesn't want to include that provision. It does sound like both sides want to include more funding for the Paycheck Protection Program, and they do want to focus that on small business, not on the large businesses like some of the CARES Act businesses that were called out on Twitter and on social media that were huge businesses and made tons of revenue and still received paycheck protection loans. The next stimulus package could include provisions of businesses would have to have 300 employees or less, and also would have had to have lost 50% of their revenue due to shutdowns. It does appear that hazard pay is off the table. I haven't heard any negotiation or speculation about hazard pay in the last week or so, so it sounds like hazard pay is probably not going to be part of the next bill. If you are wondering about child support, it sounds like child support will be taken out of the second stimulus check as well, just like it was from the first stimulus check. I've also been asked a bunch of times about the second stimulus check, if it is passed, whether it will be paid to the dependent themselves or to the person that claimed them on their taxes. If they're an adult, it seems to make sense to me, even if they're claimed as a dependent, that they would receive the stimulus check rather than those that have claimed them. But I have not heard one way or another whether people that are claimed as dependents will receive the checks themselves or whether they would go to those that are claiming them. That's something that sounds like it's still up in the air, or at least I haven't heard any details about that yet. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or VA benefits, and you're still waiting for your first stimulus check, or you're just waiting for your first stimulus check, There are some things you still need to do. Keep checking the Get My Payment tool. I know I say that pretty much in every video, but that's going to be the most up-to-date information the IRS has for you regarding your first stimulus payment. Also, if you do not file taxes and haven't filed taxes in 2018 or 2019 and are not required to, fill out the non-filers tool if you haven't already. If you filled out the non-filers tool for the first stimulus check, whether you've received your payment yet or not, you will not need to fill the non-filers tool out again for the second stimulus check. And if you received your first stimulus check, you don't need to fill out the non-filers tool. In addition to this, you can still call the IRS at the stimulus hotline 1-800-919-9835. Be prepared probably for some long wait times, although I have heard of success from people calling in the evenings. So try calling in the evenings. Also, early morning is another time that I've heard people having success with. But you can continue to call the IRS stimulus hotline. And I would suggest, if you haven't received your first stimulus check, call the IRS hotline and get this resolved. Keep calling them and be persistent. And you don't want to be calling in the next couple weeks if they pass a stimulus bill and you're fighting people that are asking about the second stimulus check. You need to get this first stimulus check figured out and figure out why they haven't sent it to you yet. If the IRS can't give you any specific information, you need to call back and get a new representative. Usually those representatives won't transfer you, but you can try asking them to transfer you to somebody that can help you in your specific question for your specific social security number and everything else. Keep calling the IRS, be persistent. I mean, you've waited for 3 months already, so what's a few hours of your day set aside to finally get an answer for the first stimulus check? So that's my update for today. I know that so many of you are struggling. I know you're trying to just figure out how to live and make ends meet and pay for food, and I'm so sorry for that. I know that a lot of you are struggling, and you do matter and you are important. I know it seems like government doesn't think that right now, but just know that you are important and you do matter. And if you focus on those things in your life that are going well and focus on the positive in your life, maybe there's not a lot of positive, but there are positive things around you. Look for the good in people, look for the good in those around you, and look for what's happening good in your life and be grateful for that. And I know that if you do that, it's going to bring a lot more happiness into your life. And I know in my life, when I'm positive and I keep a positive attitude, I'm a lot more happy as well. Thank you once again so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.